Everybody. We're gonna have some follow-up video today about the idiopathophysiciology creation of SIBO. A lot of people ask me, well, where do we get it from? And it's a variety of factors. And when you're treating SIBO, you have to address a lot of these factors also because it's like, for example, if you don't get you can take as much antibiotics as you want, but if you don't address the contributing factors that led to the colonization and continual proliferation and development of this bacteria in your gut, it comes back. And that's what the recurrence rate is so high in SIBO. It's like 50% of the people who get treated for with antibiotics still develop symptoms. What factors can we address for true prevention and removal and fixing the gut? It's easy to say do this or do that, but there's a ton of factors that I'm going to try to go over today. And there's just one study. It's easier to just talk about off the top of my head, but there's one study that they had 30 people who had suspected SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, and 15 of those people had a positive lactulose breath test, and 11 of those people had an actual culture, an aspirate culture of the intestinal lining, which is the true reference standard, because the breath tests aren't as accurate as they should be. And what they found, that they looked at three things. They looked at one, intestinal pH, how acidic is the gut lining. They looked at two, small bowel transit time, how long does food sit inside of you, and they looked at three, ileocecal valve sphincter muscle pressure. Okay, the people who had SIBO confirmed with aspirate had 10-hour small bowel transit time. That's IBS with constipation. That's food sits inside of your intestines too long and ferments and feeds bacteria. Okay, versus 1 hour in the non-SIBO people. Okay, 10 hours in SIBO, 1 hour transit time in everyone else. Okay, intestinal pH in the SIBO people, it was a 3.8 pH, right? In your non-SIBO people, it was 2.7 pH. Again, the lower the number is, the more acidic you are. So the SIBO people were less acidic in their intestinal linings. Okay, and the ileocecal valve sphincter muscle pressure, this is what's great to me, because this is when you really get down to the gut-brain connection and digestive neurology. Where does the SIBO come from, and how important it is to just make sure we get our bowel movements right every day. We looked at the pressure, the PS, just think of it as PSI, that the connection between your colon and your small intestines have, your ileocecal valve. And the SIBO people could only withstand about 30 psi, while your non-SIBO people had 75 psi. Those numbers are rounded up a little bit. And so my point is, a sphincter muscle is like this, my mouth right here. And so here's a strong 70 psi sphincter muscle. Look, nothing can get in. Weaker sphincter muscle, ileocecal valve, a weak pressure, weak withstanding, 28, 30 would be, right? It can't withstand the amount of pressure that it needs to. So that confirms SIBO as well. So there's all these factors, right? Outside of any antibiotic you take or any antimicrobial or parasitic, it doesn't matter what you've taken yet, you have three contributing factors to SIBO on why it got there. So I talk about the importance of getting your bowel movements right and constipation. Like, the people who will have reoccurring bouts of SIBO after rounds of antibiotic treatments are the people who never get their bowel movements right. The people who don't address their small bowel transit time, right? If you're constipated, food's sitting inside of you too long, and if you're not breaking it up well, it ferments and feeds SIBO. Okay? And then the pH, we have to get acidic across the board. And you guys may know how hard I am on the proton pump inhibitors. And there's 4 of them you can buy over the shelf. There's 7 of them on the market. 3 of them you get prescription. They all do the same thing: turn off acid production, which is the most physiological physiologically important cascade to initiate digestive reflexes that addresses those three factors, right? So, if you take a PPI, you're screwing up your pH. If you're screwing up your pH, you're pretty much turning off the light switch to digestion, which would shut down all the other digestive neurology that you have. So, don't take those. Secondly, stress is inhibitory on digestion as well. So that's when we talk about the fast, the importance of the fast. Everyone's stressed. There's a ton of different issues you need to do to address stress in today's life. But just understand, if you eat food when you're stressed, you will not digest that food that well. And if you're not digesting the food well, it may sit inside of you too long. And if it sits inside of you too long, it may ferment and lead to the colonization of SIBO. Okay, 6-minute video. Hope that explains a lot. If you have questions, you can leave comments or try to get in contact wherever you found this. Okay, good luck.